Welcome back, students and others who happen to find this video. Let's take a look at this. We're taking a look at frequency lists, part of Lexis. Lexis is a fancy term for the lexicon, which is a fancy term for vocabulary, right? So frequency lists are lists of words from a corpus, and it's a number of times that words occur in a corpus. Pretty straightforward, right? You can order them alphabetically or by frequency. And there are other metrics that are available that you can use in Python if you know how to code in Python, right? But we'll just stick with those two. What are common uses of using frequency? Well, you can help learners prioritize words that are most useful, like the 501 Spanish verbs that you need to know if you need to know Spanish, for example. For measuring lexical difficulty, like reading level, probably heard reading level, like grade level. This is a 5th grade reading level. You can use frequency to determine that. Proficiency as a second language or even first language learners of a language, right? You gain more proficiency, and that usually correlates with learning less frequent words, less common words, right? Frequency profiles of text is another use of frequency, and you can look at what percentage of the words in a text come from this band. Let's say the top most frequent 1,000 words. And then the next band down, the second most frequent 1,000 words from 1,000 to 2,000 in the ranking of words. So you need a frequency list to do that type of thing. And also for matching class text to student reading level, like I mentioned. It's used in the design of vocabulary assessments. And there's some other uses that we won't cover here, measuring homogeneity between corpora, and also the design of psycholinguistic terms or items. Here is a review, raw versus normalized, raw or absolute frequency versus normalized frequency. Let's take a hypothetical scenario, right? Let's say we have the word tree that occurs 25 times in corpus A, and we have the word tree that occurs 30 times in corpus B. And so the question is, in which corpus does tree occur more often? Well, clearly 30 is greater than 25, and therefore occurs more often in corpus B. But let's say we have corpus sizes of 50,000 words for corpus A, but 100,000 words for corpus B. Okay, my follow-up question is, in which corpus is tree more likely to occur in running text, as you're just reading text in this corpus? Well, clearly 5 is greater than 3. And therefore, you're more likely to encounter tree in corpus A than corpus B. How so? Well, you take the number of occurrences, so let's say 25 at the bottom part of my slide here, 25 occurrences in corpus A, you divide it by the number of tokens, like total number of words in corpus A, which is 50,000. You take that quotient, you times it by some base number, we'll use 10,000 at the moment, and you end up with 5. So for every 10,000 words, on average, you'll encounter tree 5 times. But in corpus B, even though it occurs more often in raw frequency or absolute frequency, that is 30, you divide it by 100,000 words, which is twice the number of words as we had in corpus A, right? In corpus B, we have 100,000. You take that quotient and times it by the same base number of 10,000, you end up with only 3. So you're more likely to encounter tree in corpus A than corpus B because of the normalized frequency is greater. 5 is greater than 3. Even though the raw or absolute frequency was greater for corpus B, 30 is greater than 25. There's Huntston. You can look at Huntston, our textbook, if you'd like to see more about that in section 4.3. Let's talk about another metric with kind of related to frequency. It's not frequency, but related. Let's think of this hypothetical scenario. Let's say that word A, whatever that word is, and word B both have a frequency of 40. Okay, so if we're only looking at frequency, we'd say, oh, those are, can we conclude? Well, the question is, can we conclude that both words are as easily accessed from the mental lexicon of speakers, the mental storage unit, right? Vocabulary of speakers. Probably not conclude, but we can suggest that because frequency correlates not one-to-one, but correlates with what's called resting activation state in the mind, meaning a word is kind of its resting activation state. It's how easy is it for a speaker to grab that word out of their lexicon as they're trying to produce language. So frequency is an important measure, but the follow-up question I have is, how are these two words dispersed across the parts of a corpus? Parts probably meaning text. individual text of the corpus. As we know, a corpus is made up of a bunch of texts. And the question I have is, well, let's look at the range. If we look into a corpus and find that both words occur in all 10 corpus parts, then we say, okay, but the follow-up question then is, it seems like they're equally dispersed across the corpus parts, but not so fast. Let's look at dispersion. So dispersion is a better measure to look at how spread apart the words are in a corpus, or how distributed or dispersed. Range is simple. Range is how many different corpus parts do they occur in. In this hypothetical scenario, they both occur in 10 corpus parts. But let's take a look at this little graphic here. So on the top of this slide, let me remove myself for a second. Let me get back over here and remove myself like that. The top part of the screen, we have word A. Let's say it occurs 4 times in the first corpus part, 4 times in the second corpus part, and 4 times in each of the other corpus parts. There are 10, let's say 10 corpus parts or 10 texts, and so we have a frequency of 40. On the bottom part, we have word B, and in the first corpus part or text, it occurs once, in the second once, etc., all the way down till, let's say, the 8th. In the 8th corpus part or text, it occurs 31 times, and in the 9th and the 10th, it occurs once each. So that brings us to a frequency of 40 as well. So again, the frequencies are the same because they're both 40. The ranges are the same because they occur at least once in each of the 10 corpus parts. So they have a range of 10. But the dispersion here is different. It looks like word B is a specialized word to that 8th text, whereas word A occurs evenly across all the corpus parts. And so it may be the case that word A actually has a higher resting activation state than B, because B is a very specialized word to one particular text. That's what dispersion is getting at. There are various measures of dispersion. But that's kind of the basic idea, is in how many across how many corpus parts does the word occur, and what are the sizes of those texts as well, and how often do they occur in each of those corpus parts. Okay, good. Here's a little pop formative quiz for you. Let me just keep myself removed from the screen for a moment. So it's a good old-fashioned matching quiz. Let's see if you can tell me what I just told you in the form of a pop formative quiz. So go ahead and pause the video for a minute or two and see if you can answer these questions. Ready, set, pause. Welcome back. Let's take a look at what you guys thought. So the raw or absolute frequency, right, is D, answers the question, how many times does the word or phrase or construction occur in the corpus? Just how many times? It's a count. Normalized or relative frequency is B, answers the question, how many times does the word or phrase or construction occur given a base number? It allows comparison between different corpora or subcorpora of a single corpus. Range, the third one down there, range is A, answers the question, how many corpus parts, for example, texts, have at least one occurrence of the word or n-gram or construction at hand? That's range. And then dispersion is C, answers the question, how many or how much variation in frequency of the word, phrase, or construction is there across the corpus parts or text? That's dispersion. Okay, now let's get back into some software. And let me put myself back up here. Hello again. Frequencies in AntConc. Let's take a look at AntConc. Our old friend, AntConc. We're going to load up a corpus. If we haven't already created one, we can do so quickly. We're going to click on the Word tab, and we're going to click on the page size drop down to get the largest number available. Then we'll click Start. Then we can save the output out to a TSV file. We can open that TSV file in a spreadsheet. Should we give it a try? Let's do so. Let's go over to our old friend AntConc. Here is AntConc. You may recognize it. Let me zoom in a bit for you to make it easier for you to see what I'm looking at here. Bump it up to maybe there. I'll go even higher than that. Let's bump up the jam. There we go. So let's go up to File, second option down, Open Corpus Manager. Again, File, second option down, Open Corpus Manager. And here's our Corpus Manager. We've seen this in class, right? And I already have one created. If you want to create a corpus, you could do so with raw files right there, like we've done in class. I'm not going to do so now. I'm just use my Jane Austen. I have a Jane Austen corpus right here in my list of corpora. At the top left of my pop-up window, I have corpus source, corpus database. I have one that's already created from Jane Austen. Again, if you don't have one, you can click on the second radio button at the top there, do raw files, add some files, etc. Again, we've done this in class, so I'm not going to do it now. But Jane Austen, open as target corpus right there. It says open as target corpus after you've highlighted Jane Austen or some other corpus you have already created. It gives you some summary information about the corpus there. And then I'm going to, at the bottom right of the screen, I'm going to say return to main window. Boom. And then, like I said over here in the slide, by the way, I'll link to these slides in the description of this video. It's also in the LMS canvas. We're going to click on the tab, the Word tab. Word right there. Good. And then click on the page size drop-down box right there. And the default is 100 hits. Let's bump it up to, say, 5,000 hits. Let's just go whole hog here. And then click on Start down there at the bottom part of the screen. Down here at the bottom part of my screen right there. Good. And then, oops, let's see. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to, here we go. There we are. Okay. Okay, so here we have the frequency of the 5,000 most frequent words. There it is. A little tongue-tied. Unsurprisingly, the word "the" is the most frequent word in the 6 novels that I have from Jane Austen. The, to, etc. Right? And if I were to jump to the very bottom of this whole screen, I'll just go to the right part of my screen and grab the scroll bar and just scroll down halfway. And yeah, we have the 2,343rd most frequent word, essential. And there's its rank. Let me see if I can, you can order it by rank or frequency over here. Anyway, so there you go. You have the rank and you have the frequency, the actual raw frequency. And we need to get the normalized frequencies. Let me pause the video and figure that out real quick. Okay, so by default, it doesn't show you the normalized frequencies. And so what you have to do is come up to the settings, the top of the screen, settings. The second option down is tool settings right there. And then it'll probably be defaulted to quick, keyword and context, but you want to come down to Word, about 2/3 of the way down that list. Word, and then click on the show normalized frequencies radio or checkbox right there. And then click apply. And then click restart right there, click start again, at the bottom part of the screen. And there we go. Now we have normalized frequency, norm freak right there. And I'm not sure what the base is. It might be 1,000,000 words. I'm not sure exactly what the base number is there, but yeah, there's a normalized frequency. Also gives you a normalized range, which is nice. So for example, words that occur only in one text, for example, Crawford, has a frequency of 605 occurrences, but it occurs in only one of those novels. And so the normalized frequency is low. Those normalized frequencies occur between 0 and 1. Excuse me, the normalized ranges occur between 0 and 1. The normalized frequency is based on, I think it's 1,000,000 words, but some base number, if it's not 1,000,000. Okay, so there you have frequencies in AntConc. Let's save this to a TSP file. So let's go up to File, Save Current Tab Results. Let's go back to AntConc, go up to the menu File, top left of the screen, and Save Current Tab Results. Like that, about halfway down that menu. And then Mac is saying, are you sure you want to do this? No, I really do want to do this. That's all right, Mac. Then I go to, say, my downloads, and it gives a default file name of Word underscore results. I'm going to change this to Austin underscore freaks. And I'm going to change TXT right there. See how it says TXT as the file extension? I'm going to change it to TSV because it really is a tab separated values file. And it says the results have been saved. And I say thank you so much. And then If I come over to Google, if you have a Google account, which most people do, right? And you go to Google Drive and you go to new, the top left of your screen, my screen right now, new, file upload, second option down, file upload. And then go to my downloads and find Austin Freaks. There it is, Austin Freaks. Oh, it's still saved as a TSV. Okay, this may be problematic. I'll have to deal with this in a second. Yeah. Okay, so what happened is it actually did save it as a TXT there. I actually typed in TSV, but AntConc really wanted it to have TXT. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my, let me bring this over to the screen you're looking at. Come over to just like a Windows Explorer or a Finder on Mac, and come here, just change the file name. I need to change that file name. You can right click and click on rename, for example, or something like that. I actually just want to manually remove the .txt at the end of the file name. So it only is TSV. And Mac is saying, are you sure you want to do this? And I say, yes, I really want to use TSV, not TXT, because I know that there are tabs separating the columns. Good. And then, so back over in Google, I need to not worry about that. In fact, I don't know if I can just dump it right now. I don't think I can. That's fine. So what I'm trying to say is that the austinfreaks.tsv.txt is not importing correctly into Google. So I had to manually take off the TXT extension, the .txt, so that right now, hopefully, I assume Google will upload it correctly. So on the top left of my screen, I'm going to click on New, second option down, File Upload. And then I'm going to choose the austinfreaks.tsv with no txt. Good. And I can see by the color of the icon there, down at the bottom right of my screen now. Let me remove myself for a second so you can see clearly what is going on down there. Bottom right of my screen, I have austinfreaks.tsv. If I click on that, and it brings up this preview. If I click on the top part where it says open with, and I click on Google Sheets, there we have our frequency list in a spreadsheet with the various columns that were there. We didn't use part of speech tags. If we had, they would be right there. We didn't have headwords either. It would be right there if we did. But here's the rank. This is the rank order. So the is the most frequent word. To is the second most frequent word. And about is the 107th most frequent word, is what that means. Let me actually pull down this so that I can preserve my headers. Just jump down to whatever. Yeah, so quite is the 109th most frequent word. There's the raw frequency or the absolute frequency. Here's the range, the number of texts that occurred in 6 out of 6 texts, unsurprisingly. There's the normalized frequency. I think that's a per million count. There you go. So that is how you can do frequencies in AntConc. Okay. Let's look at how at frequency, word frequency at different levels. Oops, sorry, let's go back here. I'm trying to come over to OBS. Say OBS, I want you to show me again down here in the teaching mode. Okay. What do you notice about the first 100 words? What do you notice about the next few hundred words? How about words like 2,000 through 5,000? Let's actually do that. That's probably worth our time to do that. Let's come back over to AntConc, or we can go to that spreadsheet. Either way, right? We have the same information in both spots. But we'll just come back to AntConc. So the first 100 words, the first handful of mini words are function words, right? Unsurprisingly, her and she is more frequent than he and his and him, which usually is not the case in most texts. Unfortunately, there's some bias, I guess, of sorts there. But anyway, these are mostly function words here, the first 100 words. Just kind of skimming through, looking at these. There's actually a verb, that's not a function word. Your, much, if, then, one. Okay, there's another function word. There's a function, or not, this is a content word. Okay, good. There's Fanny, specific character, occurs 3 times in 3 of the 6 novels. Let's jump down to somewhere down here. I don't know. Let's go to 500 just for fun. Somewhere at around 500. Farther, strong, alone, bad behavior, forward, scarcely, etc. Let's jump down to like, here's 2,000. Let's jump down to 3,000 or so. The 3,000th most frequent word is impossibility. Imputed, indisposition, inducement, integrity. Okay, interesting. Let's jump to the very bottom of the whole list and see what we have down here. Indolence, incommodode, I don't know how to pronounce that. Incline, inch, impressed, imply. Now, the reason we're getting these in alphabetical order is because they all have the same frequency, and when there's a tie in frequency, it then breaks the tie by putting them in alphabetical order within that one frequency. So within this frequencies of 6 is putting these in alphabetical order. But anyway, you can just sense that these are less frequent words. Failure and fair and fasten and fat and favors and fearful is just, you can feel that's way less frequent than, say, let's jump up to 500. At 500, we have farther, strong, alone, bad behavior, forward, scarcely, speaking, table, and air. Okay, so I encourage you. Sorry, let me get back to my slides, which are not those slides. There we are. Okay. So I'd encourage you to pause the video and just kind of do what I did. Just kind of take a minute or two just to jump around the list and just look at what type of words you're seeing at different kind of frequency sections or frequency bands in that list that we just created. Okay, please take a minute to pause the video and look at the frequency list for a minute. Ready, set, pause. All right, welcome back. I want to show you how to do this in LanceBox X. LanceBox X is another Corpus linguistic toolkit that is created at Lancaster University. Let's look at how to get frequencies there. Excuse me. There are a couple options, and let's actually just open it up first. So when you have it opened up, it should look like this. Let me double check and see what you're seeing. Yes, this is what you should see. If I zoom in a bit, let me zoom in so you can see a little easier what I'm looking at. Okay. This is the default view of LanceBox X, and the top left up here says example corpus. It has an example corpus. I'm not going to take the time to show you how to create a new corpus. We have done so previously and in previous videos, but you can create a corpus from your own data, or you can scrape the web. You can grab one of these corpora that they have available here. I'll assume you have some type of corpus you can use, or you can even use this example corpus if you like. But I have previously created one called Saints, using the 4 volumes of the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's called Saints. So I'm going to go ahead and select on that. I didn't explain it, but you come up here, the default will probably be example corpus. You actually click on example corpus with your cursor, or with your mouse, and then you can select the previously created corpus, like I have here. I have Saints, or you can create a new one if you want, or you can just simply use the example corpus there. I will use Saints that I've created previously. Trying to talk too fast. It has 775,000 tokens across 168 files. You can see it popped up that little box right below my mouse. Okay, what we're going to do is there's a couple ways to do this. Let me jump back over to my slides for a second. I think the reason it's doing this is because I didn't get out of presentation mode. Let me just get out of presentation mode. Sorry, let me come back up here, right here. Okay, so there's a couple options. In the upper left corner, you can click on the switch tool icon, or you can move your cursor to one side of the current panel and click on the plus sign, and then click the W icon that has a little icon that has a W. That is the words function or words button. And then it'll ask you if you want to create a terms list. You say yes, go for it. You can write out to a TSV. TSV stands for tab separated values. What that means is that each column will be separated by a tab. So when you import it to a spreadsheet, it knows what to do with it. By clicking on the 3 vertical dots in the upper right corner and selecting Save All, you can open it to a spreadsheet. Let's try that. Let's come over to the Lance box. Here we are. I'm gonna, so again, the first option is come up here. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little icon that has, currently it has 3 horizontal bars with little dots. That's because I'm in the coordinates display. That's the default that it comes into. And this is the switch tool thing. You click on that. Expecting it to respond, but it's not. So I'm going to try a different option. I'm going to move my cursor to the far right of my screen until I have a plus sign appear on the far right of my screen there. If you can see it right above my head. I click on that. There we go. It didn't respond immediately. I'm not so sure at the moment why it took a minute to respond. But there are 4 little icons, one of which, the bottom of which is the W or words. It's called words icon. So I'll click on that. And there we go. We got a new panel that appeared on the right side of my screen. And so on the left-hand side, I have the previous panel, which is the concordance display. On the right-hand side, I have the words display. Right here, it says words. If I were to put my cursor over that little tool, it says called switch tool, right? Because we're in the words display right now. And then here it's saying compute terms list. This subcorpus needs to have the relevant list of terms pre-computed. Compute terms list. Lists. I say, sure, go for it. That sounds fine. And then it says terms list computation options. I think we just let it go. All that looks fine, all the default settings, just go for it. Push OK. And then it's going to take a couple seconds here to create the frequency list. And it is giving you frequencies of words that occur at least once in the corpus across the 600 or the 168 files in the Saints corpus that I've created previously. And let's see what we got. Still working on it. Okay, there we go. On the right-hand side of my screen, I have frequency. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the left-hand panel. If I come up to the middle of my screen where there's an X, still within the left-hand panel there, you can see if I hover over that X, it gets highlighted in red. If I close it, then it expands out the right-hand panel to take up the whole screen. So anyway, there we have the frequencies of the words. I think these are all words, every last word in the corpus. Terrific. There we go. The, unsurprisingly, again, is the most frequent word in the Saints corpus. And let's just jump down here. Whatever, struggling, suffrage, modern, Jensen, Fiji, DNC, D&C. Yeah, okay, good. Now I can see that it's not giving me more than just the frequency and the range percentage as a percentage. That's useful. I kind of want to get the normalized frequency. So if you click on the plus sign, let me just do that again. Right here to the right of the range percent sign, right below this little key, there's a little plus sign. It's not super apparent, but it's right there. Plus sign. If you click on that, you can add more columns. And so I'm going to click on rel frequency, which is relative frequency. I think this is a per million count. The base number is per million, so 58,800 times per million, I think, is what that relative frequency is there. I create a new column there. There are other columns here you could put in. There's the range. We have a range as percent, but you can put the raw count for range as well. So the, unsurprisingly, occurs in every last one of the 168 texts, which is 100% of the range. Good. There's some other things here. Oh, they have some dispersion. So this right here, deviation of proportions, as well as Julian's D, as well as coefficient of variation. These are dispersion metrics, specific ones. Let me get rid of that. Okay, I'm gonna grab this little center post and move that little plot to the right, so I have more room for the columns. There are some dispersion metrics in here. Deviation proportions is created by Stefan Gries at UC Santa Barbara, for example, in 2008. Anyway, I won't stop to talk too much. I'll just point out that, for example, on DP, deviation of proportion, let me actually just get rid of this other one for a moment. This one called deviation of proportion, DP. The higher the number, it's kind of interesting, the higher the number, the more clumpily the word is dispersed across the corpus parts. So for example, Alma, right here, about 2/3 of the way down my screen, Alma has a frequency of 144 in saints. There's the relative frequency per million. I think that's a per million count. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then here's the range. It occurs in 18 texts of the 168 texts. And the 0.9 DP means that it's pretty clumpily dispersed. Only 18 texts out of the 168 texts. But if we jump to the very top and look at the occurs in all the texts, and so the DP is really low. Anyway, that's what that means. And then, like I mentioned, you can save this out to a spreadsheet, so you can do something with it out in the spreadsheet if you like. You come up to the top right of the screen, these three vertical dots there. You click on it and say save. Is it save or save all? Sorry, 1 second. Let me refresh my memory real quick. Save all, actually. Okay, I'm looking at this second from bottom bullet. To write out to a TSV file, click on the options, the 3 vertical dots, and select save all. Okay, let's go back here to Lancebox X, save all, and then we can just put this out to somewhere. And data saved. It didn't give me the option of changing the data file name. Let's see if we can find what did it save it as on my hard drive. Somewhere in here we have, is it word count? No, that's something else from something else. Well, anyway, somewhere in here we have a TSV file that has the frequencies of those words we just saw in Lancebox. And why am I struggling to find it? Let's see if I can do that again. Where are you going to save it? Let me put it on my desktop. I can probably spot it quicker there. Sorry, I'm just trying to find what the name of it is once it's, okay, there we go. Okay. So what it did, okay, it created a TSV file here called words, and it actually was on my downloads. Words, right there. It saves 2 files actually, a C or an SVG, which is an image file. This is what that image file looks like. Oh, it's gonna open up in a Microsoft Edge browser, which, okay, oh, it's way over here. Let me pull it over to the screen you guys looking at. It saved that image on the right-hand side of our screen, which frankly I don't find super useful. But it also saved a TSV file. If I just double click it, on my computer, it's going to open up into the numbers program. And here it is. It has some info. Let me zoom in a bit for us. It has some info here about the corpus, the number of tokens, the number of texts, number of terms. And then here are the actual words and their frequencies, the relative frequencies, and the other columns that I specified. So then you can use this if you need to somehow. The word saints is pretty high up there. It's among the first 15 or 20 most frequent words, unsurprisingly. Joseph, unsurprisingly, in a history of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Anyway, so yeah, we just created a frequency list with Lancebox X there, and it has all the words, not just the top 5,000. I don't know if you remember, but in AntConc we said we want as many as it would give us, which was 5,000. Here it just gives us all, which apparently is almost 29,000 unique words and their frequencies, many of which only have one occurrence. Those are called hapaxes. You may see the term hapax legomena, but you'll just hear hapax probably more. You can see that probably half of all the unique words in this corpus occur once. That's not uncommon in corpora. And you can see some of this is like, oh, okay, some of this is kind of noise or junk. The fact that we have numbers, I don't know if you can see that clearly, but the fact that we have numbers right next to a period, next to a word, so different period 1, manifesto period 2. I think those are the footnotes that came through as part of the word in the text. It's kind of a slightly messy corpus that wasn't fully cleaned up. But anyway, there you have another frequency list. This is how you get a frequency list from LanceBox-X. Okay, wonderful. Let's go back here. Frequency profiles. Frequency profiles is a cool way to measure the kind of difficulty of the words in a text, right? So that's what the first bullet there is talking about. So let's practice with this text here. Let me get out of this view. This text talks about quantum theory. So I'll just come into my slide and actually just grab this. Command-C or Control-C on Windows, right? And we're going to jump over to our old friend COCA. COCA has a frequency profiler tool built into it. We're going to look at two. We'll actually look at COCA first, the second hollow bullet here on this slide. We'll look at the first hollow bullet in a minute. Let's go over to COCA, our old friend, right? Here is COCA, Corpus of Contemporary American English. And at the top there are a handful of icons. And the third from left icon here looks like a text document. It says analyze entire text, words, and phrases. Kind of hard to see, but that little hints pop-up box says that. So that one right there, it looks like a little document right there. Not the first one, but this third one here to the right of that green arrow. So we click on that. It has some information here. I'll just tell you right now, this is how it works. You slap in your text. So I'm going to Control or Command C or V. My text about quantum theory provides an extremely accurate description of fundamental processes in physics. Cool. Awesome. Oh, there's a slight little problem with the spacing there, and then all you do is click Analyze Text right there below the box. Analyze Text. Click it. Bingo. And what we get is 3 bands. The 3 bands that it defaults to, I think this is all you can get from this tool, is it has the 1st through 500th word in this teal color. And then it has the 501st word through the 3000th word in green. And then greater than the 3000th word in a rank order list, right, is in yellow. So let's just look at the text. You can see that on the left. Let me zoom in a tad bit for us. On the bottom left of my screen, again, I'll just expose that little table there. Again, these colors mean something. So it actually highlights the text, each word in the text, according to its frequency band. So yellow it's a word that occurs at the 3000th and 3001st or greater word on the rank order list. And the green word, for example, theory here, occurs between the ranks of 501 and 3000. And then the teal are the first 500 most frequent words in COCA. So unsurprisingly, quantum is super infrequent. It's way down there at past the 3000th most frequent word. Theory in green is between the 501st and the 3000th word. And then provides is... Siri is talking to me. I did not talk to you, Siri. No thanks. And so we have provides in teal. There's among the 500 most frequent words. And then extremely is between the 501st and 3000th. Accurate apparently is less frequent, is down in the yellow or down past the 3000th most frequent word. So that's kind of a cool display here. You can see the words in color. And this word right here, I don't know how to pronounce that. Gedanken, that's probably the last name of some researcher, is in gray because it didn't find that word in COCA. That word was not found in COCA. That's why it's in gray right there. So there you go. It's kind of a cool display to see visually with colors how frequent on average the words are in a text. And again, the more yellow, the harder the text will be because those are less, like the least frequent words. And then the greens are that kind of that mid band, frequency band, and then the teal color is the most frequent words. So the more teal, the easier to read, the more yellow, the more difficult it is. The green is the mid band. Another thing on the right-hand side, let me zoom out a tad bit. On the right-hand side of the screen is you have low frequency, mid frequency, and high frequency. And so it's actually just listing out those words. Oops, I didn't want to click on it. Oh no. Let's see, sorry. Let's see. Oh, sorry guys, let me try that again. On the right-hand side, we have low frequency, mid frequency, and high frequency. And it just lists out each of those words. These are clickable. If you click on it, it'll take you to like a kind of a dictionary entry for each of those words, which is kind of cool. Excuse me. Yeah. So there you go. And unsurprisingly, the highest frequencies are that into least frequent or quantum accurate, analyzing, applicable. Cannot. That's interesting. Cannot's not. Anyway, certainty. So that's called a frequency profile. It gives you frequency bands for each of the words in a text. So that's the first tool I wanted to show you. Let's jump back to this slide. That's my second hollow bullet. Okay. The first hollow bullet is an old school website that still works great, but it's visually cacophonic. Are you guys ready? I'm going to click on this link. We're going to see some serious visual cacophony. Yep, there it is. This website is super whatever, but it has a great tool. It's a great profiler. So it's kind of hard to navigate a bit because it's so cacophonic, so visually. Whoa. But right in here, it says the instructions. Type or paste your text here and submit, and then click Submit Window down there. Vocab Profile will tell you how many words the text contains from different frequency bands by determining, as determined by analyzing a research corpus. I'm not sure which corpus it's using, but we'll just use whatever it has. So let's go ahead and put my cursor into this yellow area. I'm going to do Command A to select all, and then I'm going to do backspace to delete all. Then I'm going to do Command V to paste my quantum theory text for my slide. And there it is, quantum theory. Now I'm seeing that last name and experiment are mashed together. Let's real quick go see if we can solve that problem. Why is that? Oh, it is mashed together in my slide. That's an error. Okay. Okay, so I have my quantum theory paragraph in here. Good. And I'm going to click on the Submit window, the yellow button in the bottom right of my screen, right next to me, right to my left. Well, yeah. Okay. We have some results here. Let's jump down here. Profile summary with coverage at 95%. Okay. So what we see is the percentage. You know, I forgot to point out in COCA that it gives you a percentage. Let me jump back to COCA real quick. We're back over here in COCA. It's saying here on the table on the top left of my screen, it's saying that 49% of the words in the text that I gave it, this little paragraph about quantum theory, occur in the most frequent frequency band between the first and the 500th most frequent word. 49%, that's what that 49% right there is telling me. And then 22% in green here, 22% of the words in this paragraph occur within that middle band between the 501st most frequent word and the 3000th most frequent word. And then 17% of the words in the paragraph occur at a rank of 3,000, above 3,000, 3001 first rank or above. Okay, again, these numbers are ranks, not frequencies, but ranks. And so it's saying half of your text come in the most frequent 500 words, 49%, right? And then 22% in that second band, and then 17 in the least frequent band. So let's go back over to our vocab profile at LexTutor.ca. And so what it's saying here, you can see this table summary. It's saying 54% of the words occur in the top most frequent band, what they call K1. Let me zoom in farther so we can really see what we're looking at here. Okay, well, actually almost 59, 58.9%. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 50, almost 59% of the tokens in our paragraph about quantum theory occur within the most frequent frequency band according to their corpus and the way they divide up the frequency bands. Okay, That's what that third from left column is right there of results. And then K2 is the next band, and so an additional 14% come from that second frequency band, what they call K2. And then the third has 18%, and the fourth has almost 3% there, 2.8, and the fifth has almost 5%, 7 tokens to be exact. And there's one word way down here at K8, very, very low frequency. There's only one word down there. And then you can see they color them that way. So you can, I scroll down and you can see, let me remove myself real quick from the video for a second. On the far right, you can see they also use colors to tell you what each word is. And they also put a dash and then the number, that is the frequency band. So K1, K2, 3, 4, etc. The least frequent was in K8. So if we can find K8, where's K8? So microscopic is in the fifth frequency band. I wonder if I can find, there's quantum, that's in the fifth frequency band as well. R themselves and using are in the top, are number one, the top most frequent one. I'm just curious to know if we can find that eighth one real quick. I did not, oh, there it is. Extrapolated is that least frequent word in their corpus. Extrapolated right there, number 8. So those numbers, again, refer to these bands, frequency bands. So yeah, the website itself is pretty janky, pretty visually hurtful on your eyes, but it has useful information about the frequency. So let's try something. Let's go back to COCA. It's a little bit perhaps easier, only 3 bands, but let's try something. Let's grab, say, Charlotte's Web, and let's Charlotte's Web. Here we go. Let me put myself back for fun here, teaching mode. If I grab a little bit of Charlotte's Web, here, Charlotte's Web is a book, a children's book, right? And if I select all of this text, you may have read this in 3rd grade or the like, to Control-C, and then I go to there, COCA, come back up to this document icon there, slap in all of Charlotte's Web and click Analyze Text. What do we see here? I think I need to come back and refresh the whole website. I'm not sure that worked correctly. Let me just refresh the whole website, reset there, click on that document there. And then, it's doing the quantum theory one again. That didn't get my Charlotte's Web. Let me just copy Charlotte's Web there. Let me see if that works correctly. Yeah, there we go. Now we got Charlotte's Web. I can see right there, Charlotte's Web. Now I say Analyze Text. And what do we see? Well, we see 56% of the tokens in Charlotte's Web occur in the most frequent frequency band that COCA uses, between 1 and 500, the first and 500th most frequent words. 10% come from that second band between the 501st word and the 3000th word, 10% there. And then 16% come from the 3000th and first most frequent word and below. Okay, so more than half are in that lowest band. If we jump over to the U.S. Code. The U.S. Code is the body of laws that govern the federal government of the United States. And let's say there's one about education. There's a Title 20 is about education there. I don't know if you can see that. And if we just grab this one about teaching of agricultural, trade, home economics, and industrial subjects, which is this one, we copy that, come back to COCA, click on our document at the top of the screen, right? Come in here, paste in that. Yeah, we have Title 20. And we say Analyze Text. And what do we see? Okay, what we're seeing here is that 59% of the tokens here were not even tested in COCA, and only 17 are among the most frequent, 10 from the second frequency band, and 15 from that third, among the ones that are attested in COCA. Attested meaning they're actually present. So, yeah, that's what we'd assume, that the laws of the federal government are, on average, harder to read than Charlotte's Web. as we would assume. Okay. So here's some practice for you. Let's go back to my slide deck. L2 English homework. Let's suppose that you're an ESL teacher trying to find a newspaper article to have your L2 English students read for homework. Find 2 newspaper articles about a current event, perhaps from 2 different newspapers. Create a frequency profile for each news article and decide which one, if either, would be good to give your students in an L2 English class, ESL class. All right, so once you do that, once you pause the video, go find a newspaper article from one newspaper, go find perhaps another newspaper, find an article about that same topic or same news, and use one of those 2 frequency profilers either in COCA or that LexTutor.ca website, and see which article might be best to give to your ESL students. Ready, set, pause. Welcome back. Here's practice 3. Legal language. Let's take a look. Here's some legal language. You can just use my slides if you want. The Miranda rights in Utah, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Take that little paragraph from my slide, or if you just want to Google it and find the same exact paragraph, do a frequency profile on it. Here is the Utah State Code 1811. Except as provided by subsection 2, a person who owns or keeps a dog is liable for any injury caused by the dog, regardless of whether these various things occur. The U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8. The migration of or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing, down here at this 3rd solid bullet there. Or find terms of use of a website of your choice and just look at legal language. I gave you an example with U.S. Code Title 20. You can try these on my particular slide, which I'll link to in the description of this video, or you can find other legal language and do a frequency profile. Okay, that brings us to a conclusion of this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.